Okay, let's talk about setting up custom domains inside of ClickFunnels so we have our actual .com domain in our actual funnel. So when people go and look at the URL, they actually see something that looks a lot more trustworthy than whatever .clickfunnels.com. This is the same idea as that, we wouldn't want to send someone to a .myshopify.com URL. We'd want to have a nice professional domain on there. So you have a couple options here when it comes to which domain you're going to use. If you control the domain, right, let's say you bought it from GoDaddy or Namecheap or something like that, you would have access to what they call the DNS, the domain name servers. You'd be able to change those based on the instruction and have your domain sit in two areas. One on your Shopify store, right? Let's say you have mystore.com. That would work for your Shopify store. Then you can create a subdomain. That's what they list on number one, right? Number one is the subdomain, where it would be basically be something like go.mydomain.com or funnel.mydomain.com or sale.mydomain.com, whatever you wanted to call it. It would be your subdomain. That's where everything in ClickFunnels side of things would live. The alternative setup would be to use an entirely new and separate domain. Obviously, if you have a Shopify store, not going to be very useful here because you need to use your .com domain, the main portion of it, right, like yourstore.com, for your Shopify store. So I think that the easiest way is number one, right? I'm going to show you how to set up number one. Very easy. This is going to set up the subdomain. You could also very easily do this. You could do number two, where you have a full domain just fully used for ClickFunnels. Okay. You could do maybe a general store type domain if you're going to be testing a lot of products. If you're moving over a niche into ClickFunnels, you could do. I've seen a lot of people do this. If it's yourstore.com, they do something like yourstore.co. I'm a big fan of .com. There's no doubt about it. I'd rather have .coms. But if you have the setup where you want to use a domain, but you're already using your domain on a Shopify store and you don't want to use a subdomain, that's probably the next best thing. You can get the exact same URL, except instead of .com, it will be .co. Okay, typically I don't recommend that for your main store, but if your main store is already taken up the .com, you can take the .co. So we're going to go ahead and install this right here, number one. This is their recommended setup. It's where we go and actually install our domain on a subdomain. So I'm going to just build the subdomain Go on a domain that I have. I'm just going to use one that I haven't set up yet. And you'll see I have it inside of GoDaddy, but it works the same way for pretty much any domain registrar. If you had purchased your domain through Shopify for your store and you want to set up the subdomain, you're going to have to reach out to Shopify and have them edit the DNS for you because you don't have access to that on the domain side. Okay, so you can click on this. They'll go through some step-by-step instructions. I'm going to show you them right now. And the first thing you need to do is just add the domain up here. Okay, and if we're going to be doing, and there's two options, this doesn't even exist yet, but this is going to be where we're going to manually set up our domain, and we're using an existing domain, one that we already own. Okay, yourdomain.com. Okay, in my case, I'm going to use just an extra domain I have, cenerfitness.com. I'm going to go ahead and set that up as go.cenerfitness.com. Okay, so we're going to use an existing domain. Then you have a couple different ways to do it: automatic domain setup or manual. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to use the automatic unless you've already set up Cloudflare. And let me just speak about Cloudflare real briefly because this was kind of confusing to me when I first jumped into it. Cloudflare.com, we're going to be creating a free account on that service. Basically what it does is makes a connection between your website and ClickFunnels. Okay, this is something that typically, like for example, Shopify handles this automatically. There's no need for Cloudflare. But ClickFunnels, they use Cloudflare to make this happen. It's totally free. You should never have to log into Cloudflare or deal with anything with Cloudflare once you just set this up one time. Okay. So you see over here, this is going to be the action that we need to do. This is going to be the action that you'll need to perform inside of your domain registrar, where we'll have to add a subdomain CNAME record, and they're going to give you instruction on how to do that. Okay. So we can come over here again. This is basically the same instructions, right? These are literally the same instructions that they're presenting, and again, we're walking through them. Step one, adding the new domain. Okay, so we're going to do an automatic setup, and it's asking us to put in our domain. So we're going to just fill in the information. So here's the subdomain, right? It doesn't have to be Go. It could be anything, right? I think Go makes sense, or shop, or sale, or promo, or something that's going to be that you're okay to have be seen in your ads, and obviously also in the URL. Okay, Cloudflare user, obviously brand new, right? So we're going to go and create a new user. We'll create a username and password. The root of the URL, we're going to be able to pick which page we want to be the starting point for our URL in terms of just literally if they typed in go.cenerfitness.com. you need to select one root URL, basically just one that they have to go to, or that they would go to if they entered this in without anything else at the end. Obviously, our product pages are going to look something like go.cenerfitness.com/product name, just like they do in Shopify. But we just need to pick this here. We can set this to none, doesn't really matter here. We're going to always enable SSL. This is for security. You're going to get a free SSL certificate with Cloudflare. And I'm just going to come in a different window, set this up so I have my, my personal information hidden. So I'm just entering a username and password to create my account with, and I'm clicking Create Domain. I'll bring this back over here now. So we're over here now. It's setting up the domain. Congrats. With our Cloudflare Auto setup, you only need to do a couple things. Basically, we need to verify the SSL, and we need to verify the location of the site. Right. The location is right here. Basically, and you know, you don't even need to worry about this. This is pretty technical, but basically, it's saying when someone goes to this address, look up this address. Okay. And basically, ClickFunnels in the background is going to say, okay, well, the domain go.cenerfitness.com is associated with a specific ClickFunnels account. Show that stuff. So that basically what we're doing is showing this URL and basically providing the information over here. And obviously the information over here is all of our funnels inside of our ClickFunnels account. So you have over here how to how to add CNAME records. A couple different ways to do it depending on what registrar you have. You could take a look at this little piece of instruction from Google. I'll show you kind of how to do it inside of GoDaddy. So we need to create a CNAME record, 2 of them in fact, and I'm over here in my GoDaddy account, and I'm logged in under my domains, and again, it's going to look different depending on what place you're using, right? What place you're using. But you're going to have to actually go ahead and manage some of the sections here in terms of updating the name servers. Okay. So if you have your domain inside of GoDaddy, you're going to see a section over here to update your DNS. If you have another, you can actually see it right here, right? If you have your site being hosted, like my site is, right now my cenerfitness.com site is a WordPress site, right? Then it's already hosted somewhere else, right? So we need to go and change the DNS servers at the place that controls your DNS records, right? In some cases, it's going to be your domain registrar. In my case specifically, it's going to be at my host. So for the most part, you'll probably be changing it right inside here. You're going to literally have a section that allows you to add CNAME records, and this is again inside your domain if you control the domain and you use it for Shopify. Okay, another way that you might see it, this is how I see it, inside of my cPanel for my already hosted website, right? So if you have a domain that you're already using somewhere else, but it's not Shopify, right, you're likely going to have to add CNAME records. Again, it's going to be different depending on how you have it set up. There's also going to be a little bit different way to do it if you're using Namecheap. But the bottom line is you need to be adding your CNAME records as they showed you inside of this instruction. So create a CNAME record for go.cenerfitness.com. So I'm going to copy this. This is how you create a record. Okay, I'm right over here. Literally, it says add a CNAME record. The name of it, go.cenerfitness.com, and then the CNAME is target.clickfunnels.com. Yours is probably going to be the exact same thing. Okay, and then you just literally click over here, add CNAME record. Okay, and this sometimes takes 2 to 3 hours to what they call propagate, basically update and kind of have everything work. Now there's one more that we need to do. See, we're doing the same thing here. Create another CNAME record for this string of information. This is just basically verification stuff that ClickFunnels is going to look for. All right, now I'm going all the way over here, making sure that you're selecting the whole thing up until the .com, copying this, going right back. This one will definitely look a little bit different for you. This is going to be your specific SSL, the security record. This is going to make your site secure, and that's obviously a required thing when accepting credit cards and stuff like that. So that's all we need to do. We have the 2 CNAME records. You see them over here under user-defined records. Again, this could look a little bit different depending on how you're doing it. You might be adding it into the DNS records section over here, where again, you just be adding a CNAME. And then when you have that set up, we come back over here. And again, over here, once your CNAMEs are set up and the SSL certificate is issued by Cloudflare, this could take up to a day. SSL will get turned on onto the domain. You'll get an email notification. Once you get that email notification, you're going to be able to come in, and I'll show you what you'll do after that. So we have a domain added, right? And this will be, this is going to update obviously in a little bit once the propagation happens. The only thing that you need to do is take care of those CNAME records. But how do we get this domain actually set up into our funnels, right? That's the last step. You only need to do it once per funnel. Come over here, just go to any funnel. First thing you want to do is up here in settings, okay? You don't need to do it on individual settings. You want to do it on the funnel-wide settings up here in the blue bar, okay? Pressing settings, taking a look over here, and we have our domain listed in here right now. I'm not going to save it right now because, again, the domain is not fully set up. We have to wait for that email, but that's all you need to do. Settings, put the domain, and then, of course, come down here and save, okay? So very, very easy. Then, basically, what's going to happen is your link, right, if we were to set this, would be, if we come over here, go.justincener.com/ whatever we want here. And of course, if we click this funnel step settings, we can actually change the URL right over here in terms of what it's going to look like. If we wanted to call it cat costume or your product or whatever you want, then it would be, again, your subdomain go.cenerfitness.com/ whatever's here, okay? And that's how you use custom domains. You could add multiple domains into your site if you want. You would see them all listed over here, and you could set them up one per funnel. And this is definitely required, right? Don't go live with these ugly .clickfunnel URLs. And if you want to do it a different way than what I showed you here, you could just buy a new domain strictly for your ClickFunnels funnels, and you would just do that other setup. Instead of doing a subdomain, you do the full domain, where it would be just mydomain.com, and everything would be pointed to mydomain.com inside of ClickFunnels. Your choice. Do either one. It really depends on kind of where you're at. If you already have an existing niche, an existing store, and you want to carry that over, definitely bring your domain. If you're doing a lot of testing and jumping around and kind of figuring out what niches and what products perform best, I think it makes a lot of sense to go general in this very specific instance of ClickFunnels. So that's how you use domains. Guys, don't get overwhelmed by the fact that there is some technical stuff to add on here. It's very, very easy. You got ClickFunnels support always available right down here, but really the bottom line is all you need to do is figure out how to add CNAME records, and I actually found this on Google. This is a more helpful document. Check, you can just do a Google search for this. Add a CNAME record, host specific steps, go over here and find your host, right? Popular ones, eCom, Namecheap, obviously you saw GoDaddy over here. I showed you GoDaddy. Yours is probably going to be on this list. If not, it's probably just a quick Google search away. How do I add CNAME records for my host? Okay, so very easy stuff. Make sure you get this implemented, very powerful, and I'll talk to you in the next video.